Most foldables feel like compromises, and Samsung knows it. The leaked Z Fold 8 wide cases point to a shorter, wider body that finally makes the cover screen feel normal, and the inner screen look like a small tablet. That shift changes everything. Today, we are talking about leaked case images tied to the Z Fold 8 wide, shared by Ice Universe after spotting listings on Alibaba. They reinforce a wider 4:3 style foldable, and they hint at camera and hardware changes. Start with the leak itself. Protective cases do not appear out of nowhere. Accessory makers usually get early dimensions, button placements, and camera cutouts because they must manufacture tooling months before launch. So when Ice Universe points to multiple case listings on Alibaba, that matters because it suggests the physical shape is already locked. Now look at what the cases suggest. A shorter height and a noticeably wider frame than the standard Z Fold shape. That matches the earlier CAD renders that showed a more traditional footprint, and it lines up with the name wide being more than marketing. The big payoff here is the open screen ratio. A wider chassis points toward a 4:3 aspect ratio when unfolded, which feels closer to a compact tablet than a stretched out rectangle. Why does 4:3 matter for regular people? Because most of the time, foldables live and die by usability, not by novelty. On older fold designs, the cover display can feel tall and narrow, like a remote control. If Samsung truly shortens the device while widening it, the cover display could finally behave like a standard smartphone screen. That means more comfortable typing, more natural app layouts, and fewer moments where an app looks awkward because it is squeezed. Then there is the inner screen experience. A wider unfolded screen makes split-screen multitasking easier to read. Two apps side by side can get more balanced widths, instead of one feeling cramped. Video playback can also change. You may get bigger black bars in some formats, but you can also get a better layout for comments, chat, and controls without covering the content. For productivity, a wider canvas makes document editing and spreadsheets feel less like a trick and more like a real workflow. The case cutouts also point to another major change: the camera housing. The leaked cases show a vertical, pill-shaped cutout at the top left, and that shape suggests a dual camera stack rather than the usual triple lens array. If that rumor holds, the Z Fold 8 wide could ship with two rear cameras, a high-resolution main sensor and an ultra-wide. The spicy part is the reported 200-megapixel main camera. Samsung loves big sensor headlines, but a 200-megapixel sensor can be more than a number if it brings better detail, improved cropping, and stronger low light with pixel binning. But the trade-off shows up immediately: the missing telephoto. If Samsung drops the telephoto lens, the camera system becomes simpler, and the cost may come down, but zoom fans will notice. Samsung could lean on high-resolution cropping from the 200-megapixel sensor as a substitute for some zoom ranges, yet that rarely matches the clarity and compression of true optical zoom. So the decision becomes a personality test. Do you prefer cleaner design and potentially lower cost, or do you want the flexibility of a dedicated zoom lens? Now go under the hood. Multiple rumors tie this device to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 platform. If that ends up accurate, expect a familiar pattern: faster CPU performance for heavy multitasking, better GPU power for gaming, and improved efficiency to stretch battery life. Foldables need that efficiency because they push more pixels and encourage people to do more at once. A wider unfolded screen will only amplify that demand. Software matters just as much as silicon. The device is rumored to ship with One UI 9.0 based on Android 17 right out of the box. That matters for two reasons. First, Samsung often tunes One UI features specifically for foldables, like taskbars, split-screen behaviors, floating windows, and continuity between the cover and inner display. Second, first shipping software versions usually introduce new multitasking shortcuts and polish that older devices may wait months to receive. If Samsung truly plans a wide model, One UI will need to justify why this shape is better, not just different. The cases also show physical basics that confirm expectations. There appears to be a side-mounted power button with an integrated fingerprint scanner. That design has been common on recent foldables because it stays accessible whether the phone is folded or open. It is fast, it is reliable, and it avoids the complexity of in-display sensors across different screen layers. Now let us connect the dots to the launch window. The current expectation points to a July Unpacked event, with the Z Fold 8 Wide launching alongside the standard Z Fold 8. Samsung usually keeps the foldable lineup to two main models. Yet the wide name suggests Samsung wants a third pillar, at least in some markets. If Samsung is preparing a new shape, it signals competitive pressure. The wider foldable tackles one of the most repeated complaints about the Fold line: the narrow outer display. There are also rumors about materials and durability. Some reports mention a carbon fiber reinforced plastic chassis to reduce weight while keeping strength. Weight is a big deal for foldables because people feel every extra gram when a device is thick, wide, and carried all day. The lighter frame combined with a wider screen could be the sweet spot, more usable, less tiring. Another point floating around involves the crease. A refined hinge or crease mechanism could deliver a smoother fold line and a better viewing experience. Even if the crease never fully disappears, any improvement changes the day-to-day feel, especially for reading and drawing. Wider 4:3 proportions also mean the crease sits in a more central, tablet-like layout, so perception matters. Privacy tech also enters the rumor stream, with talk of a built-in privacy layer that reduces side viewing angles. If Samsung can do that without hurting brightness and color, it could be a real quality-of-life boost for commuters and travelers. The key will be execution. Privacy layers can reduce clarity, so Samsung must balance security with image quality. So what should you take away from these case leaks? 1. The wide design looks increasingly consistent across CAD renders and accessory cutouts. 2. Samsung may be shifting from the tall, narrow fold identity toward a form that feels familiar when closed and more tablet-like when open. 3. The camera story could be a deliberate trade, pushing a 200-megapixel headline while simplifying the rear array. 4. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 and One UI 9.0 pairing could make this the most polished foldable experience Samsung has shipped if the software fully embraces the wider layout. Until Samsung steps on stage, every detail remains unconfirmed. But case makers rarely gamble on a completely wrong shape, because wrong shapes cost real money. That is why these images matter. They do not tell you everything, but they tell you the part companies struggle to hide: the physical design. That feeling is exactly what Samsung is chasing with the Z Fold 8 Wide. If the leaks are accurate, this design is not a gimmick, it is a correction. The foldable should not force you to accept awkward proportions every time you reply, scroll, or edit. A wider frame could make the fold line feel less like a prototype and more like the default. Keep your eyes on July. So that is all for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more tech news and updates. Thanks for watching.